Okay guys, now I am back to do another top video. This is now going to be a top 20 PS4 game list. Okay? Now, I do want to say something before I start this video. I don't have GTA 5 for the PS4. So, I will be doing another video maybe next year. So I might add that in next year when I do actually have it. Okay? I'm just letting you guys know. So it's out of the games that I only previously owned. Okay? So you guys will know which games are deserving of the top spots for PS4 up to this point. Okay? You know, the PS1 era is done. The PS2 era is done. The PS3 era is pretty much done. Okay? Or is done. And now we're moving on to the PS4. Okay? Now, I'm going to talk about number 20. Okay? For the PS4. And it is Bloodborne. Okay? It's actually pretty... This can be a pretty difficult game for a PS4 game. But what I like, I guess, most about Bloodborne is that it can be challenging. It does have some sweet weaponry. And it can be pretty fast-paced, which is something I like about Bloodborne. Although I think some of the problems with Bloodborne is that I know it's based on some dark mythologies, but I mean it's just not the best PS4 game to me. But it's not a bad PS4 game now, to boot. Alright, we're gonna move on to number 19. Okay? Which is actually Rock Band 4. Alright? I have played Rock Band 4 pretty thoroughly, by the way. And I do like quite a few of the music pieces in Rock Band 4. Most namely Halls of Valhalla, which is a very sweet song. One of my faves. There's actually another one called Eddie Japan that I actually kind of like. I didn't actually like Eddie Japan at first, but then as I played Eddie Japan a little more, I kind of grew to like him a little bit more. So I mean, it all depends on your taste for what you like for music and Rock Band 4. So, do I think it's really the best rock band? I'll discuss that maybe in another video. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as the number 19th spot. Alright. The next one is a good game. And it's called Everybody's Golf. Alright. It's a good golf game. I'm not sure if it's better than like Hot Shots or anything. Probably a little bit based off of Hot Shots. So that would be number 17. Right? Or 18, sorry, 18. I always get the numbers mixed up. Alright. So this is number 17. Okay. Final Fantasy Zodiac Age. Alright. I am going to get pretty detailed when I explain this, because I want people to understand something. The reason why I gave it the 17th spot, and I've played this game a bit thoroughly, but not entirely. I mean, I'm glad they made the final boss a bit easier. However, I'm pretty disappointed in some things when it comes to this game. I don't feel as though the characters have as much freedom with what they can equip but at the same time, I don't think it was meant to be that way. But I still kind of don't like the fact that I can't equip anything I could in Final Fantasy XII for the PS2. The ability to fast forward was very sweet. I liked how the game actually switched up some of the items. I mean, you know, these changes are kind of a good thing because I liked FF12 for the PS2. Some of you already knew that because it was in my top PS2 games. Alright, but I'm going to move on to number 16. Right. Okay, that wasn't very detailed, but I think you guys kind of get the gist, though, of the Zodiac age. FF12 Zodiac age. And next is Resident Evil 7. Okay? Actually, I kind of like this game a bit because I think it has some very freaky moments that really freak me out. Like, as soon as you get past the sewer points, not the sewage, but, you know, well, it's kind of like sewage because it's underneath the house and everything, or the cabin, whatever you want to call it. It gets pretty freaky, okay? Just thinking you are in a house alone with just some kind of memory or some kind of past movie, you know, or past something that happened in the past in this same house or cabin, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It kind of works for the game, but I don't think it's the best Resident Evil game, if you ask me. Okay, but it's an okay Resident Evil. It's not, you know, it's not great though. Alright, now I'm gonna move on to number 15. Okay, and number 15 is Wolfenstein 2. Yes, Wolfenstein 2 actually surprised me. I mean, it was comical, and yet kind of dark, and kind of emotional at points. But the thing I really loved were some of the surprises. And I was actually pretty surprised at points in Wolfenstein 2. It surprised the heck out of me. Not the most perfect first-person game, but I will say that it is a great first-person game, though. You should definitely play Wolfenstein 2. But I think Wolfenstein 2 is almost more of a rental more than a buy. So, I mean, I'll know next time. This kind of thing. Well, I guess maybe to me it's just more of a rental than a buy. I guess I do have a little regret in buying it, but at the same time, I can play it whenever I want now. So, good for me. Well, okay, so the good thing about this game is that the body piles can just pile up and pile up and pile up. This game really shows off the power of the PS4. It is a good game. Alright. And next we have for 15 is Wise 8. Okay, so this game actually surprised me a bit. You get about, like, well, I should say the story is based off of a bunch of characters that are stuck on an island, and it's sort of a lot like, I don't know if any of you kind of read this book called The Lord of the Flies. Maybe you guys should read it if you ever want to read a book called Lord of the Flies. But it's sort of, in my opinion, kind of reminds me of it because it is based off a group of people who are stuck on an island. They're kind of like castaways. Or actually, they are pretty much castaways on an island, and they're all trying to get off the island or find ways to get off the island because I think they were pretty much shipwrecked. But the thing that really got me to play this game, especially like once I got halfway through to the end, was a surprise. I mean, this game is filled with thought. It's filled with, well, the battle system's pretty good. The story's pretty good. I mean, there are times when I'm like, I am very surprised that the developer could do what they could have done with this story. I've not seen this happen in a game. I mean, besides maybe like Chrono Cross or one of the Chrono games. I mean, because it pretty much kind of does that, you know? It kind of does a little bit like of what the Chrono games did. I don't know, maybe this game kind of reminds people of the Chrono games, but it could kind of do that, so. But yeah, definitely worth playing through if you guys like action RPGs, so. Alright, so that is number 15, right? That is, I think that is right. Let me see. Sorry, number 14. Alright, number 13. Alright, Star Ocean. You know, I actually thought this game was much better than what most people conceived it to be. I think the story was big, and I think that the way you play through the game is just freaking awesome. But I do think it does have some of its shortcomings, though, because I think where it really kind of fails is the PA, okay? So, like, why didn't, like, the developer, Squenix, or if that's the developer, why didn't they actually think of just putting more PAs in one area so that you didn't skip a PA? I mean, the game is just kind of, well, you don't get the best of things if you don't go through the PAs. So if you miss a PA, you might not get something that you might find actually helpful during your quest through Star Ocean. The one thing I kind of enjoyed in this game was that you could actually create weapons, like more powerful weapons, more powerful armor, just by the use of combining weapons and stuff like that. And what you could also do is mine for ingredients and fish, which was actually kind of a nice thing. I mean, you kind of get your money's worth when you buy Star Ocean integrity and faithlessness, so it's not a bad game. I mean, it's if you don't like it, and there's a lot of people that don't like it, I actually enjoy Star Ocean. So that's that. Alright, so what number are we on? I gotta keep track of this. Okay, so we're on 12, sorry. I lose track because I didn't wanna see, if I start talking about a game, then I can lose track of what number we're on. Alright, so like I said, number 12 is actually, here, I'm gonna make a second pile, is actually Dragon Quest Heroes 1. This game, actually, I just got near to the end, and I actually really liked Dragon Quest Heroes 1. I thought it was a great game. Not something to write all home about, necessarily, but it has its pleasuring moments, okay? Like, the moment when you're inside of a tower and this thing's just knocking the tower down because he knows that having that tower will mean will assist the villain of the game, you know? And that's what the villain doesn't want, is to have that tower exist, you know? basically, it's a very dark villain, and even at like some point in the game, one of your heroes gets taken away from you. It's a very intriguing story. Has some nice boss monsters. But the one thing that I think that strays it away is, well, you'll see when I do the rest of these games. Why it's in its place. But I will say this, you do have to point and click to an area to go inside, certain areas. But eventually you can fight every enemy in the game, so. Alright, anyways. This would be number 11, okay? So we're hitting the number 11 spot pretty early. Okay? And it is Uncharted Lost Legacy. Now, here's the thing with Lost Legacy. I played through Lost Legacy all the way through. I have to say that I liked most of it. I actually would say that it's in some ways actually better than its prior title, which would be Uncharted 4. But I think what kills it is that, and I probably just ruined it now, but is that it doesn't seem long enough to be like a real long Uncharted game, So, that's maybe why it's not as high up, is that it's not a very long game. There are long portions of Uncharted Lost Legacy, but it's not a very long game at all. There are some really beautiful stages, though. I will say, I think the second to last is one of my favorite stages. Because what you had to do is you had to get all that water to actually combine and to flow in the center right in front of the statue. That was just amazing. It really can be an amazing game at times. But it definitely deserves the number 11 spot. So, and that's pretty high up, so. Alright, so let's go to the number 10 spot. Alright. Which would be its brother. Uncharted 4. I love this game to bits. The beginning is one of the best beginnings to a PS4 game that I've ever played. I think you drive the boat and then you go to chapter 1. Oh man, it is. It really personalizes the game, where you have this relationship between two brothers, okay, and a friend. Pretty much it's two brothers, a friend, and a girlfriend, and an adversary, of course. And the thing with this Uncharted is that, the graphics are great. The music is astounding. The jumping and the climbing is perfect. It's... what else can I say about that? I've always, though... I did want to talk about something, and I talked to one of my coworkers about this. Whether he liked actually having 2 weapons better than having 10 weapons to choose from with freedom. Because, some games actually do this. Some games will say, okay, you can only have 2 weapons, and that's all you can have. But you can always refill those weapons, too. Along while playing the game. So you can actually pick up bullets and stuff. Well, you can also use grenades, too. I get that, Well, the thing really is, too, though, is that at one point, you actually join up with the wife, okay? And the wife helps you out. Actually, you join up with 4 of them. All 4 or 5 of them. I forget if there's 4 or 5. I think there's 4 or 5. I don't know. And they all help you out on some of the questing within Uncharted 4, which is kind of cool. Okay? The commentary is pretty straightforward, but I do have some problems. It states some very debatable things with some of the things that are said. I think I'll state something specific right now, like when Nathan talks about Leos. Yeah, you kind of gotta be careful because sometimes when you say something like a Leo, as in the Zodiac sign Leo, does something, you kind of are saying a blanket statement. And I don't really enjoy blanket statements said in games, so not all of what's being said is all cool. It's just most of what's being said is great, though. Most of it. But not all of it, so that's why it gets the spot it does. And it deserves the time that I'm giving it, too, because I think it's definitely a worthy game. Alright, but I am going to move on to the number 9 spot. Eventually. Which is, of course, Fallout 4. Now, Fallout 4, I'll tell you my experience with this. I thought it was an amazing game. You know, many people have given this game 5 out of 5s, 10 out of 10s. I mean, it's the things you can do in this game. I mean, you can jump around, you can, discover new towns, new areas, get new weapons. And I've heard some complaints about this game. Like, it has too many pipe weapons. I mean, I keep hearing this complaint about it. I sort of agree, but what do you expect? I mean, these are guns. Do you expect them to not put pipe weapons in it at all? I mean, what do you want to see? I mean, come on. There are laser muskets in it, which is cool. The one thing I really enjoyed about Fallout 4 was, the weapons are cool, and the armor is cool, and anytime you equip new armor, I mean, you can actually see it on your character, so it is really cool. The other thing, though, is having a companion. I mean, it's up to you if you want to have a companion or not. And it's also up to you to choose male or female, or the husband or wife, I should actually say, because that's basically your choice in the game. And the one thing I also really liked, actually, was the adventure itself, because finding all the cities, it's not an easy feat. I mean, I know some people are like a level 400 in this game because they just spend their lifetime on it. And I'm not saying it's a bad game per se. I'm just saying, it's a great game. It's just not my favorite out of all the PS4 games. Up to this point, of course. The graphics are good. There is one other thing I wanted to hit on that I think that kind of makes this game stand out, is building a town that's been already pretty much destroyed. This is actually a really cool feature. I just like to say that, okay? I think it was a cool feature. It's a little limited, and it's probably because I don't have the DLC for it, but it is kind of limited, though. And also defending your area, too, which is also kind of cool. I do like that, too. And, trying to keep everybody alive while you're going out and hunting and doing all this other stuff. Alright, I'm going to move on to, I think it would be number 8. Alright, so moving on to number 8 will be The Witcher 3. Now, I have to say that The Witcher was actually a pretty fun to boot game. Even when I first started, it was a very fun game. The story starts out with you having to chase a child around. I mean, I liked some of the side missions in this game. I actually like the fighting. I mean, I think the fighting is cool. I mean, I think the combat is okay. I mean, I don't really get all the complaints about the fighting being bad in The Witcher, but it's not. I mean, it's not like it's a Diablo game, you know, where you're gonna get like all those kind of fighting techniques and stuff like that, or per se like how should I put it? Like a turn-based RPG or something like that. But it's not a bad game. I mean, it all depends on how you look at The Witcher, because The Witcher I thought was pretty huge in size actually. I mean, the character can swim in water. He can ride a horse. I mean, this guy can do it all pretty much. He's a magician too at the same time. So this game is actually very cool and is very deserving of this spot, which is number 8. The one thing that I think that puts it down, though, is I think the graphics, and I hate to say it this way, I don't think they were that great. Not that graphics, like I say, are very opinionated, you know? But for a game that's trying to give you the good graphic appeal, I think it could have just taken a little step further graphically. In my opinion, I think it's fine musically and all that stuff. And I think some of the wizardry behind The Witcher is actually pretty cool, so if you don't like that, well, that's up to you. What you want to like and what you don't. Alright, so I'm going to bring out the number 6 game. Actually, is this number 6? Oh, I'm sorry, number 7. And that's Disgaea 5. Now, I've come pretty close to beating Disgaea 5. I mean, it literally is like 13 chapters long. Okay? It is not a short game at all. Okay? It will take you quite a while. I mean, this game, though, has some of the best DLCs. I should actually say that some of these top spotters for the PS4 has some of the best DLCs out there. Okay? I mean, you can get characters in Disgaea 5 like Priya. You can get Metalia. You can get, I think you can get Adele. I'm not sure if you can get Adele. I think you can get Adele and Rosalind. I forget, though. And I think you can also get Mao from Disgaea 3. Yeah, and have him be put in Disgaea 5. But the thing is with Disgaea 5, which I think makes it better than The Witcher, is that it's very fluid. I mean, it seems so well organized, and it's so... I mean, the thing I liked the most about Disgaea 5, I think, was that the special attacks, the leveling of special attacks, were much faster. The weapons and armor were actually a bit more organized. No, they don't have as many populations. Like, they don't have as many, what's the word I'm looking for? Residents, I should say. They don't have as many residents, but again, it's also a little more organized, okay? I liked how the game offers you so many things. Like, if you want, for instance, like, if you want a spell, well, you probably want to hit about chapter 2 before you want to, you know, get spells. It's up to you, though. You can go through, I don't think you'll get one I mean, you could try to get one in Chapter 1, but I don't think you'll get one in Chapter 1. But you can always try. Definitely always try. I think you can get heal at least in Chapter 1. But once you get to... See, the one thing they actually did is that they gave you a bonus item for the 10th spot on the bonus tree. Okay? They never did this before. You can also now throw diagonal, which is cool. I mean, this is... But I have to say this, and I'm not trying to be mean to anybody who is a fan of this guy. They should have really done this from the start. You know, it's not like this should have been really new. They should have just did this from the start. Matter of fact, I thought that this guy at 2 guide stated something like that of you being able to throw diagonally when you actually couldn't. Which was a very big mistake in this guy at 2 guide. Anyways, another thing that I really like is the special combos, okay? Well, in this game, you could take, for instance, like a character like Killia and Flame Magnus, and you can have them do a combo attack. Now, the combo attack actually shows up in their magic list. Well, you would know, their special attacks list. Okay, and they can actually do a combo. Okay, so you can actually now just use specific combos for characters. Rather than like what, you know, Disgaea 3 did, and just allow you to make pretty much any combo, which... But I kind of like the fluidity, a little bit of Disgaea 3 with combos more than Disgaea 5. That's my opinion. The story, again, might not be the greatest. I do have to say that I think Disgaea 5 story is probably the best one that I have seen, maybe except for the Laharl stories. I guess that's all dependent on what you want for a story. And it's only because I usually find the Laharl stories pretty funny. Alright, so we're going to move on to number 6. So, thank you for listening to me on that one. Alright, so I'm going to move this pile over. I'm going to move this pile over here. I'm going to move this pile over here. Now we're going to move on to the number 6 spot. Are you ready? And that is Deus Ex. The one thing I have to say about Deus Ex from the get-go is that I love the atmosphere. The atmosphere of Deus Ex reminds me of the time when Bungie developed Shadowrun, and they tried to do it right, but they just couldn't do it. And it also reminded me of Shadowrun for the SNES because it sort of takes place in that kind of era. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, where we have, like, people are a machine. I don't know, at least something along the lines of it, you know? Because Shadowrun, you know, I think it would have been a great 3D game, you know, if it was made great in 3D and it wasn't, well, Bungie. I think I'm probably going a little too far with that one right now. Alright, so anyways, so Deus Ex pretty much warps you into this world where you are pretty much like half human, I guess, and half bot, or half, yeah, kind of like half bot, you know, half human, kind of like Mega Man almost, but, you know, more human, rather than more robot, rather than looking more robot. I mean, and it really has some interesting concepts because you can actually hack computers. You can actually... Well, I mean, of course you can go into dialogue. That's pretty obvious. I mean, the gunning aspect is probably one of the better aspects, too, because all the weapons, you know, they sound like they're actual weapons, and all the weapons are cool. But sometimes, and I think this is the problem with Deus Ex. This is why it doesn't get the top spot. Sometimes I think I just didn't have enough space in my inventory for collecting items, and I couldn't store them. Well, that kind of stinks that you just really couldn't store them. Or at least I didn't find an area where I could store them. But the thing also is that everything you do in Deus Ex, and this is something that I think can be a love-hate thing. Everything you do, like for instance, there are people on the 3rd or 4th floor of where you live. I think there might be like 1 or 2 floors below where you live, where you start kind of, after the first area. Where if you shoot them, they're going to always be your enemy now. I mean, the game is kind of smart like that, though, because, well, think about it. I mean, if you were to shoot at me, wouldn't you now forever be my enemy? No? I don't know. I mean, that's interesting, I guess. I guess that was just a game design choice, where now they're just your enemy all the time. Because all the time when I try and go back there, they're always now my enemy. So you gotta watch out for the choices you make in Deus Ex, because you could make the wrong one if you shoot at an innocent person that hasn't done anything really wrong. Or shooting a person without actually thinking about how you could change a situation by just not trying to knock somebody unconscious, Now, another thing that you can do in this game is you can, like in Metal Gear, kind of like hide yourself, Which is kind of cool, because I always like that in games. I mean, you can do that in Fallout 4, and you can do that in Deus Ex, so it's always cool when you can do those kinds of things in games like those. Alright, I'm kind of drying up a bit. Alright, so that's the number 6 spot. Alright. Now, number 5. Nier Automata. I know it might get quite a few people saying, thank you, man. B2, B2, B2. Well, yeah, the main character in this game, which is B2, I mean, she's a very quick-witted woman, I should say, because she can really dice enemies. She's quick, and I really enjoy that about Nier. I mean, we really need more fast characters in games, and Nier kind of does that. But on the other end, what Nier does is sort of like what Fallout 4 does, and it kind of leaves a bit of the game barren, okay? I'm not saying, though, it's a bad game. It's just these barren games need to just stop being so barren, Hopefully, both of these developers will learn this, because, Final Fantasy 15 did the same thing by making that very barren, which is not even on this list. And that's just part of the reason why. Okay? So, the one thing I actually really did enjoy in the year is that you do have some help in the battle. Every time you attack an enemy, that thing also attacks the robot attack. So you do have some assistance at times, and you do need it. I mean, the game, it starts to really open up once you hit much later areas in the game. So Nier is just one of those kinds of games you just gotta take for face value. It's a good game. I mean, there's a lot of wit. And I liked the fighting styles. Actually, what I really liked too is how the game kind of changed its way of representing itself. Like, not just being like an RPG, it changed into a different kind of game. You know? I forget what that was. It has been a while since I played Nier. But I do remember that, though. And it's a fun to boot game. If you enjoy Nier. Alright, so the next one, which will be the number 4 spot. Here we go. Number 4 would be Mafia 3. Yes, I have actually been playing Mafia 3 off and on, which is good to say, because Mafia 3 is like one of those kinds of games where it's like free roam, a bit of free roam. And the area that you drive in this game, I think they call it, let me see. Yeah, New Bordeaux, I'm sorry. I forget the names of these places sometimes. And I think there's up to 9 areas in this game. I mean, this is a huge game. It's not a tiny game, guys. And there's a lot of area to cover. Now, the one thing I really did enjoy too with this game, besides the graphics and the gameplay, is the vehicles and the music, okay? I like some of the old style vehicles that you can drive in this game. I mean, some of the tactics and some of the motions are just so spot on. I don't really get all the negativity towards this game, though. I mean, because it really does shine in quite a few places. The one thing, though, that I think that I don't like about this game in particular is the hard choice you have to make when siding with another character. Because that's kind of like how Mafia 3 is a little bit. Because you have to think about which characters you want to side with. And it might not make others very happy because you side with one. You know, so you kind of really got to think the way out of that, so. And you know what I mean by that, you know? I mean, it's great to try and make friends with these guys by helping protecting them at first, but after a while, you just gotta watch your eye, so. And like I said before, especially about the weapons, okay? You only can carry 2 weapons. Of course, those bullets can refill. Okay? I think there was one other thing I wanted to hit on with this. Oh, yes. Okay. So, the side stuff you can actually do in Mafia is that you can actually do wiretapping. Okay? Now, the wiretapping consists of having one wiretap in each. It's kind of like little town in each area, or maybe a little area of each part of New Bordeaux. So, like, they could have. I think they might be. I don't know. Is there? I think there's probably maybe like around 40, maybe 40 or 50 of these things around. Now, what these wiretaps are, if you kind of think about it, though, you need these wires first before you can even fix these wiretappings or even get them even going. So it takes 3 of those, and then you get to see all the other wires, and you open up places in the city that, well, you open them up on the map, at least, so you can see them on the map. I mean, the story in itself is pretty much a backstab and then get revenge on the backstabber kind of game. I mean, I actually enjoyed Mafia 3 for the most part. The one thing I wanted to state, though, before I kind of close this Mafia 3 thing up, is that, and I think it brings up something interesting that I've been thinking about when it comes to these games like Mafia 3, okay? And this even includes Mafia 2 as well, and GTA, and all these free roam types, or if you want to call them sandbox types. The thing is that when you beat the game, there's usually just not much to do other than maybe just drive around. I know some people stated that GTA 5 has taken the larger leap on that one, where you can actually do more stuff. Because, I mean, they got all that online capability stuff. Even during while you're playing the actual Grand Theft Auto 5 game. So, well, I'm just saying per se. So maybe in the future, maybe the people who develop a Mafia game can think, maybe what we'll do is we'll do a collector car. Which I think is awesome, because I missed that from GTA 3. The collector car stuff. So the missions in this game are actually pretty cool. The driving is actually pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad it was made by 2K. I don't think a lot of people were very happy at this achievement by them, though. But I have to digress on that one, because I think there's a lot of merit in this game. Because you couldn't have expected such a twist as to somebody backstabbing another person. Could you have? And then you getting revenge on that person. Well, I mean, I've seen movies like The Punisher where they do the same thing, so at least The Punisher might have a little bit more merit than Mafia 3, but eh. Alright, so let's move on to the number 3 spot before, Alright, so number 3 is The Evil Within 2. What else can I say about The Evil Within 2? Okay. Here's the thing, guys. The Evil Within 2, I think, is just about as great as Silent Hill Homecoming. And Silent Hill Homecoming got the number 2 spot for my PS3 list. You have to watch the rest if you want to see the rest of it. But it'd be pretty hard to get the number 2 spot. It'd be pretty hard to get the number 3 spot, too. But the thing with this game is that it's freaky. But I think its setbacks is that it might not be freaky enough, I mean, I like when I play these kind of games, I want to get that frightening mode, or I'm afraid to know what's going to happen around the next corner. And there are some freaky moments, but I don't think it was incredibly scary, though. Okay? Maybe it's just me, but I didn't think the game was that incredibly scary. But it is definitely freaky. So, I mean, the graphics of this game are actually pretty good. I have nothing against the graphics at all. The slow character model, I think, is what really kind of kills this game, though. Because I think the character could move a bit faster. I mean, I get it that the character can run, and the run might be considered as twice as fast, but it's not that much faster. I mean, it's almost like a it's like a jog almost, which is not a run. I like the sound effects of the weapons in this game. I like the weapons themselves in this game. I like the fact that it's a lengthy scarefest. I mean, it's not even, like I said before, it's not really that scary. Especially if, and this is the thing to anybody who's viewing this, and they sometimes get a bit frightening of horror games and movies. But if you can just remember sometimes that it's just a game, sometimes it just makes you feel a little better. And it makes it so that you can actually play the game and not think that it's so frigging real. Like it's actually happening. But it's only happening on screen. What I really actually like about this game is how this game is still different than Homecoming, and yet it's as lengthier as Homecoming. I mean, literally, at one point, you are facing a wall, and then you turn around, and there's a camera. I mean, at another point, I mean, you're trying to kill this guy with a chainsaw, and you eventually do. Then you take the chainsaw, and he awakens again, and then you just crush him with his own weapon. Okay, it's not a non-spoiler. It's not a spoiler-free. I guess there's going to be spoilers here, guys. Tiny bits of them, but, you know, just some. The one thing I have to say that I liked most about The Evil Within 2 is its transition. How it goes from one place to another. Because you can almost tell, like, as soon as you end the first area, I mean, you kind of get the gist that each and every area is somehow connected, and it's connected in really such kind of a weird way, but it's a weird way that works for The Evil Within 2, honestly. And I think that's a kind of a good description of parts of what happens in The Evil Within 2. And the basic story behind it is that this guy's looking for his daughter. Okay, and his daughter pretty much entered this... I want to call it a video game. It's almost like she entered a video game, and he's trying to get her out of it. Or just very fright-inducing world. Especially to a very young girl. Alright, so I'm going to move on to the next game. Alright? And the next game is... This is actually, by the way... I think this is going to be a great number 2 spot. Okay? Both these, by the way, I mean, they're so close. I mean, as far as scoring goes. I mean, it's very tight. Alright? And it was very hard to decide which one was going to be the top spot between these two games. And number 2 actually was... Oh, let me turn it around. Dragon Quest Heroes 2. Abso-freaking-lutely. I almost gave this game a 10 out of 10. But I had to give this game a 9 out of 10. Pretty much. And the reason for that is that I felt like the game kind of skimps you around the level 40-ish area. I mean, it starts to really drop you, giving you only like 1 hit point per level. And that's a bad thing because you're literally getting thousands of experience points. And I don't think the one thing you want to see is you got 1 hit point after getting 400,000 hit points. I'm sorry, 400,000 EXP. Now, the idea behind the Dragon Quest Heroes 2 game, compared to the first game, was that you have one hub area, and then you have a bunch of areas that surround the hub area, which actually works wonderfully, okay? I know what a lot of people want to say. I think a lot of people want to say that this game is a spin-off, okay? And that's fair to say. Okay? But the one thing that I think that really drives me to play this game and to constantly love playing this game is its action. I love the action sequences in this game. Every one of them. I mean, the story in itself, I mean, it's better than the first one. Okay? Even though the first one did have some comedy. This one doesn't have as much comedy, although there is some comedy in this one. The one thing I also enjoyed was the pacing. The pacing didn't feel too slow or too fast at times. You could literally, and this is actually the truth, you could literally run through an area to the end and just say you beat it. So if you don't want to fight a lot of the enemies, you can just run by them. I mean, evading enemies is usually, as much as I hate to say this, is usually easier in action RPGs more than turn-based RPGs. Because turn-based RPGs, you're pretty much just stuck fighting the enemy regardless. I mean, you can't just run away from the enemy. You have, because a lot of the battles in turn-based games are defeat the enemy in order to win. But if you don't, then you might actually feel pretty overwhelmed later on when you have to fight much harder versions of those enemies. Like, especially once you start hitting the hub area. Because eventually you have to go to the hub area to go and fight in that area. And that is going to be a pain in the rear. I will tell you, once you get literally, as much as I hate to say this, the game really starts to change its difficulty once you get to the Icy Mountain area. I mean, the game is pretty much easy up until that point. Besides maybe if you fight a troll. Because the trolls are a pain in the rear. They always have been. There's plenty of gameplay to be had. The thing that this game offers during battles, the special attack you get is called coup de grace. And the way it works is that you get attacked by an enemy and you gain some of the coup de grace power. I think you get attacked and you gotta attack the enemy. I forget if it's both or if it's just one of those. But I know eventually you can just you can actually raise the tension meter also by putting points into your skills. Like, because all your characters have, like kind of like a skill tree, kind of. They kind of like have skills that you can just obtain through their innate nature, pretty much. The one thing I also liked about this game is the warp system. I mean, even though you have a hub area, it doesn't mean that all you can do is just walk to it. No, you can actually warp to the hub area. Not all the time, but for most of the time, besides like if like you're in a boss battle, or if you're actually in battle, then you can't. Another thing that I really liked about this Dragon Quest game was the transition between area to area to area. It was actually done in a very nice way, because the way they did it was that so that you could actually go through the area. In order to unlock another portion of that area that you started in, you might need a character from a later area. So you can actually go through a later area, then come back to that area and open that portion up that was not opened up because you didn't have the right character to open that up with. Does that sound kind of complicated? But it does actually work for the game. And I think it's I think from the beginning to the Snowy Mountains is pretty easy. Now, once you get to the Snowy Mountains, the game starts to really change in difficulty. It really does. But you get weapons and armor that counters all that, so... And hopefully a good head on your shoulders that can think your way through of battles, so... So I thought it was a pretty enjoyable PS4 game. Definitely worthy of the number 2 spot. I would definitely hope that they make a Dragon Quest Heroes 3 game. Alright, and the number 1 game goes to none other than Neo. There are so many great things about this game. You know, I will tell you this much, just from the beginning. I was a little skeptical first, you know, when I first saw Neo at the store. I was like, is Neo really that good? I mean, I hear all these people, you know, bragging about Neo and saying, oh man, this game is so good, it's so hard. It's hard, and it's good. Now, let me tell you my experiences from playing Neo. And believe me, I played through quite a bit of Neo. There's a lot to really like about Neo, okay? Now, let me start off by saying that you don't start with practically anything when you start off in this game. And you're basically running to just save your own life, you know? I mean, technically you don't really have to fight anything. You just have to get to a certain point. Then you just have to fight the boss. And that's it, you know? Because it doesn't matter. I think all the items you're not going to be able to keep anyways. I don't think you're able to keep Amrita or anything else, so. Now the first boss was actually... sorry. The first boss was actually pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty challenging, okay? And you fight him aboard a ship. And you could definitely see the ship in the distance halfway through. Some of the things that are really cool that you can do in Neo is you can actually collect these little creatures that give you more abilities throughout your gameplay. I forgot what else they actually do. Alright, so the idea of this game is to collect Amrita and to build your character's stats up, you know? I mean, if you want to do that, I mean... This game is hard, though. Don't kid me wrong. I mean, the enemies in this game are not all dumb, although I do find that they do occasionally leave themselves up for attack after they attack, you know. So, I mean, it all depends on how you fight in this game. I mean, you literally have different options, okay? You have different fighting styles that you can use to fend off your foes in this game. It still does not mean that the game is incredibly, incredibly easy. As a matter of fact, I have to say, And I'm going to say this now. I love the music for Neo. I think every time you get into a combat with a boss, it is freaking awesome. And I feel like anytime I beat one of these bosses, I mean, it just feels so good to beat him. Because I knew I took on a real grave challenge. And I knew that if the boss hit me about 3 times, I'd be a goner. Possibly even 2. Because some of those yokai, that's all they need to do is just hit you in 2 hits and you're dead. That's why you gotta be careful in Neo. And you kinda gotta think your way through some of these situations. Like, you got the ability to throw sand in front of their faces. Or you have the ability to bomb them. Or you also have the ability to shoot them with an arrow in the back of the head. Which is, well, makes me kind of thrilled to do something like that. One of my favorite aspects, though, of Neo is always doing a downward stab. You know, I didn't like it so much in Zelda 2. And there was a downward stab ability in Zelda 2. But as much as I hate to say this, I love the downward stab in Neo. Because it's so... Oh man, it's just so awesome. Just downward stabbing some kind of enemy that's just on a little lower ground than you. Oh man. Even just... like, anytime you have the enemy that's just near death and you just stab him while he's lying on the ground, oh, it is just so freaking awesome. I love Neo, guys. Neo, I mean, literally, I think if there is an underrated game out there, it's probably amongst my top 5. You know, they're all underrated, guys. Okay? The boss monsters are cool. And believe me, I'm not saying Neo is easy at all, guys. It's not. I mean, yes, there are, like I said, there are times when the enemy opens themselves up to be hit because they took an attack before you did yours. Yes. The one thing I have to say, though, also, is that, and I kind of like this idea too, imbuing your weapon with the power of spirit, which was really kind of a nice feature, because it gave your character a little bit more versatility, you know, to be able to, you know, kind of run his way across, you know, fields, you know. I mean, this guy is, you know, he's walking almost everywhere. Now, let me just touch upon just 2 more things before I shut this off. The one thing I wanted to talk about with Neo is the atmosphere, okay? The atmosphere is absolutely amazing, okay? Not necessarily better, per se, than Deus Ex, because I've always loved the atmosphere of a game like Deus Ex. But this is definitely a gratifying atmosphere for Neo. So yeah, in some categories, some games can beat Neo. So I will admit that. But at least I admit it. But I definitely still think Neo is just a better overall game over that one, because it just has so many more better aspects. The second thing I wanted to talk about is that all the stuff you can do in this game, I mean, they really give you at your leisure. I mean, you pay for the money. I'm just trying to say, like, the money you spend, it's well worth it. I mean, I think the top 5 of this list are must buys, guys. And just so I'm just gonna do a little overview here, of the last 5, just so you guys know. Okay. And remember, okay. So the last 5 was Nier, Mafia 3, Evil Within 2, Dragon Quest Heroes 2, and number 1 being Neo again. So I thank you guys for watching this video. And these top 20s, I mean, these are good to great games. I mean, you know, they're PS4 games. I mean, and we're not really done with the PS4. I mean, developers are not really done developing for the PS4. So there's going to be more games out. And when there are more games out next year, I will do another video. And until then, who knows? Some of these might actually change next year because I'll go through more of these games. Like, I'll get further in them, you know? Because I haven't totally completed them all. But I do have still a pretty good assessment of what I've liked so far in each one of these games that I have played. At least up to the points that I've gotten. So, thank you for watching this top 20 PlayStation 4 game list. And I hope you watch further videos. Thank you guys for watching.